A long fade out. And here we are with Simon Mann and Mr. Robert Key. Robert Key, 19,419 runs, was it? That's a pretty good effort. 19,400 runs, a double hundred in a test match, and lots of fine words on TV. Robert Key, you're our guest tonight. Great to have you on. Where are you? Tell us where you are. It looks very neat and tidy.
Yeah, I've got the glamour of Brentford at the moment in the Holiday Inn because I'm doing the game tomorrow, and I live, 2 hours away from Skye, which is near Twickenham. So because it's 7:30, I can't be getting up at 4:30 to drive up here. So I've got a night in a hotel. It's actually nice to be out of the house, to be honest.
Well, do tell us about the house, and because you've had some issues with between your wife and your dog, haven't you? Can you explain that? He's now crashed. That's obviously that didn't work. That
the hotel is good, but the hotel Wi-Fi is not so good.
Yeah, we won't be going to the Holiday in Brentford for the Wi-Fi.
Oh, really? Hang on.
Did you get that question?
No, obviously not. Right, well, Yoz, I think we better talk among ourselves for a few minutes while Keezy gets himself sorted out. At the moment, he's frozen on screen, as everyone can see, which is a bit
How's
of
that? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You are. We can hear you, but you're not moving.
Now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think so.
Well, let's hope.
So it's sort of dipping in and out a little bit, really. It's one of these problems we have from time to time.
Right, here's a question then. Yoza mentioned all the runs you made. What's more fun, playing cricket or commentating on it?
Well, I think batting is the most fun, I would say. There's no better feeling than scoring runs and raising your bat for 100. But then if you say, when you add fielding into the mix and there's no fielding in commentary, I would probably say, I think commentary just has it now. But you got to remember, I'm old now as well. What am I, 41 or something? So when I was young, I enjoyed all the fielding, all the traveling, everything. Whereas now I enjoy just sitting in the box and listening. You got sort of the dressing room with NASA, Ath, and all that lot, as you did as a player when you're commentating as well.
At least you haven't got the responsibility so much, have you, as a commentator as well? I mean, if you do make a cock up, if you're a batter, you're on the way back to the pavilion, but you can sort of cover your tracks a bit as a commentator by, even if you do make a faux pas, you can sort of say, well, what I meant to say was, there's no repetition, or there's no way of covering up for your mistakes in batting, is there?
No, and you I suppose the point you're making, you get more than one go, which you never feel you get as a batsman. But I find commentary, Freddie Flintoff actually found commentary, of all the things he's done, he found that the hardest, because I find, and I still see myself as very new to commentary, and especially lead commentary, calling that moment, which you guys have done for years, takes a long time to get used to. It's all right when you stand there as a summariser and you're just talking over replays, but learning how to do your voice, and because I haven't got, Michael Holding's got a great voice. He probably doesn't have to think about it. I'm constantly, I can't bear listening to myself. And so you're constantly having to worry about, does it go up too high? Does it go too low? Are you boring? Are you boring yourself? And I find that as much fun to try and overcome as batting, I suppose.
Have you had any voice training?
No, because I also, with TV, I sort of got into it. Sky, I was very lucky. Sky used to have a guest for every single studio. So any game of cricket, they used to have not only put the cricket on, so if it was, I don't know, whoever it was, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, I would do that through the night. And I would be the pundit sat next to Charles Colville or Ian Ward as he learned. And we were basically learning a trade for years, which I didn't know it. No one was watching because it was 3 o'clock in the morning, but I was learning a skill for 10, 12 years probably. And because I sort of got that far without ever watching myself and thinking about it much, I thought, well, I've got this far, I'm not going to do it. Now, you know, like when you're a player and you sort of get to a level and then people start telling you how you got to do it different. Well, I never wanted to do that as a player. I never wanted to get to play for England and start changing the way I did things. And I feel the same in this, really. So I started off blagging it, and I'm sort of continue doing it to this day.
If there's any consolation about hearing yourself back, I think most people at the start of their broadcasting careers, or fairly early on in their broadcasting careers, are surprised how they sound, because actually the way we speak is not how other people hear us. So I would ignore that. To us, you just sound normal. So it's just like, that's just how Rob Key speaks. So when you hear yourself back, you think, oh, that sounds a bit odd or whatever.
I think it's also quite interesting. It's quite interesting listening to how your voice evolves as well, isn't it? Over sort of 10, 15 years. Yeah. And at times, I almost don't recognize myself from some of those clips from 2003. I remember the first time I heard my own voice was on an answer phone message, where those old days where we had, you recorded a message into your answer phone and then played it back, Simon Hughes isn't here or whatever. I found that really off-putting. And I know what you mean. So it does.
Did you watch yourself play much though?
Hardly at all. My dad actually used to try and record Sunday league games, but often he pressed the wrong channel and we had Celebrity Squares on it accidentally instead. And actually the funny thing was I wanted to sometimes when he did get it right, I wanted to watch my action, and you couldn't stop the picture at the right moment. So you try and press pause as you were halfway through your sort of delivery, and it would end up kind of with the ball halfway down the wicket. So yeah, it was a bit frustrating, really.
These days, everyone watches themselves back. Then I mean, you see someone get out, and they're immediately back on their computers having a look at the shot they've just played. I mean,
it's one of the worst. It's one of the most dangerous tools, I think. This crick stat, not crick viz, cricks. When I was playing, it was the crick stat, and you could watch every ball you faced. You could just click, you'd click on, I want to see my fours or whatever, and you could just watch it. So when I started, people used to get out and they would just go and throw their kit. Then they come straight into the analyst room now, and they bat for sort of half an hour terribly, especially early season, and they play, they're unhappy. They come in, they reinforce that negativity for the next half an hour, watching the same dross they've just done. And then they go, all right, I'm going to change that. And they go to the nets, they then change it. So they're just constantly getting this sort of reinforced negativity. And it does them no good. Whereas actually, I remember Joe Denley once, he was doing it, and I went up to him and just put all his fours on for the year and said, don't watch that, watch this, feel good about yourself a little bit. Watch yourself doing something good. You were rubbish today, but just try and, look at what you do when you do it well. Don't lose sight of that. Don't lose sight of your good stuff, because if you just spend all your time watching yourself play badly, that's no good to anyone.
Can you learn from watching one or two of your mistakes though? I mean, if you're getting out in a particular way, or would you just advise batsmen just forget about that?
You watch your dismissal, you watch a little bit, and then try and compare it to what you did well. Because the point, I remember someone once sent me Daniel Bell Drummond at Kent. They sent me sort of, what do you think of how he's batting? And they clipped up every dismissal of the year, which was probably like 20 dismissals. And sure enough, every single one of them looked appalling. The same Zach Crawley. They did, and I'd look and, he'd get out LBW and he got in a bad position there. He had 150 though at the time. So he's had 150's worth of good cricket. Yeah. And sure enough, he looked like he couldn't spell bat when he got out. So you've got to make sure you just see the bad very quickly. Yeah. And then go and say, right, and you've got to remember how you did things well. That's the key, because it teaches you to think for yourself.
Yeah. What do the coaches say then? Do they say actually, do they try to discourage players to watch them, watch all their innings, or do they say, right, actually, no, go and watch the good bits? I mean, they have a role presumably to play in encouraging players to do a certain thing or other.
Yeah, I think generally they do. There's lots of the first team coach now is more of a mentor than anything, and he's more of a manager. And generally, I think there's a big trend of actually nowadays of letting people just get on with it. You know, when John Wright, we had the New Zealander, John Wright, was a great bloke. You know, and he spent all his time with us young batsmen, and he'd come up and he'd say, "Your wicket's your life, mate. You know, that's your life. Don't ever give that away." And so we go out and we're batting as if we're going to die if we got out, which was no good to us. And in a way, it was sort of so negative. He didn't mean to be, that it put on a bad, it didn't get you in the right frame of mind. Now, most of the coaches, especially at the top level, they're there because they don't do anything. And actually, they don't get in your way. They don't tell you anything that's going to make you think too much or do something you don't want to do. And they just try and give you everything. So if you watch England practice now, as you would have done, those players basically turn up and go, right, I want to bat for this long, I want to bowl for this, and they will just be facilitated everything they want. You know, which is very different actually from probably the start of my career when the coaches told you all the time what to do.
Yeah, it's gone through 3 phases actually, because in my career, the coaching was totally non-existent. I once wrote, and I got into trouble for it actually, that all county coaches did was carry that around a bag of balls and open the sandwiches at tea. And obviously my county coach, Don Bennett, was pretty incensed by that and gave me a hard time for about 5 years. But they didn't really do much, the county coaches. They were just it was just after you retired, you ended up being the county coach, almost like a sort of 13th man, really. And then your era, you're saying almost the coaches said too much, and now they've kind of retreated again and bring in the specialists. So just tell us a bit about, for me, you seem to have fun when you were batting, and a lot of batsmen are very sort of introverted and kind of quite, selfish and don't look as if they look pretty kind of insular almost. But you seem different. Were you a different character to the kind of very ruthless batsman that you played with and against?
No, not so much. I remember running down. Do you remember? You'd obviously remember Carl Hooper. You'd have played against Carl Hooper.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And I remember when my first trip to Cardiff, and I was 12th man, and Wrighty said, he said, Keezy, go for a run down the river with Carl. It was raining, and Hoops wanted to go for a run. He didn't know my name. It was embarrassing, and he didn't know my name for 5 games, which was even more embarrassing. I remember on the run, he saw I was only 18. He said to me that batting's like life, or cricket's like life. The way you play is a reflection of how you are. And I remember thinking, do you know what? He's probably right there. So I sort of just went out and played, I suppose, as I was as a person. And I think if you get like gritty, determined players, who get, over my dead body, they're like that in general a little bit. So I had a theory that, I tried to have everything in perspective and realize what I was doing. I think that helps massively personally, in that basically, you would bowl a ball at me and I'd have a piece of wood and try and hit it. And there's much more important things to do in life than play cricket. And I sort of tried to remember that throughout my entire career, even when I was worried about the mortgage, as I still am now. What the kids are doing, all these things that everyone does, I still try to remember that you're not saving any lives. Try and enjoy it as much as you can, because what you do next, I might not be lucky enough to enjoy it at all. Touch wood, at the moment, I am.
Yeah, nice attitude. Did you ever have, dark moments? I mean, you don't strike us as a person who did, but did you ever have any kind of doubts? Or I don't mean about your ability really, or about the career path, or your participation.
No, when I always think this with young players actually. When I was young, I had no doubt I was going to play for England. I thought it was going to be quite easy actually. Well, not easy, but I didn't think it was a dicey road. I just thought, well, I'll play for Kent and then I'll play for England and then that will be that. But when I was probably about 27, 28 and got married and had kids and all that, then I started, geez, that's a bit lucky actually. That could have gone horribly wrong. And I didn't play for England anywhere near as much as I thought. It was much tougher than I realised, but I was very naive as a youngster, and I think that's a great thing to have. if you can't be naive when you're 18, 19, 20, you're not going to have it when you're 23, 24, 25. And so you have that sort of arrogance and confidence that gets, you know, in my career, that got beaten out of me the more I played. So by the end of my career, it's probably pitches and balls and, you know, losing some ability. Then I started to think, oh, I'm not, you know, I used to go home and like my lad he'd be 5 and he'd be throwing at a ball and I'd just get him to throw me a couple. And he thought I was playing with him, but I was trying to work out where my hands were going for the next day. But yeah, it sort of worked. I'd imagine that was slightly different to everyone else.
What was the toughest thing about playing for England? I mean, was it just the fact that, you know, the quality of opposition, or were there other things as well?
Yeah, I was 22, I think, when I got picked for Australia. And that was that great side when Shane Warne and all that lot, and they were just too good for us. It was, I mean, we were playing a game from 10, 15 years earlier, and they'd moved into, you know, the 2000s almost, you know, with Warne and people like that. We couldn't match them, and that was tough because the standard was so much better than us. Yeah, and we would bat, and I remember facing Glenn McGrath, and I'd never faced him before. I'd played against Warne, but Glenn McGrath, I remember his first ball, he bowled me. I thought, here we go, this is going to be on. And I promise you, it was like 80 mile an hour, which isn't that quick. And I saw it all the way. It wasn't really taking the stumps on, and I just left it. And I thought, what's all the big fuss about here? And then the next one, and I did the same thing, and I left it. And I sort of thought, why is everyone going on about Glenn McGrath? He's not that quick. You can see him quite easy. And then I did that for an over. And then I played Warne, and it was like, I knew him a little bit, so that wasn't too bad. And then I have another over of Glenn McGrath, and I thought, right, okay, let's get some runs now. And then I thought, oh, there we go. That's why he's a good bowler, this bloke. Because I've got absolutely no idea how I'm going to score a run against him. I mean, I think I could block him forever, but couldn't even do that in the end. But all of a sudden, when you thought, this bloke does not bowl a bad ball. And then the whole slip cordon was like behind you in this wall. And Steve Waugh, who played at Kent, he'd sort of look at you as if, he's a good bloke, Steve Waugh, but he had a way of looking at you like you've just, you know, like Fleur does when I've come in late and I haven't told her. Just like you're absolutely nothing. And then all of them in a sled and a short leg, they didn't really sled you. They sort of look at you as if like, who on earth are you? And then you just, eventually you go schnick and you're out after 3 overs of blocking the life out of it. And you think, oh, that's Test cricket then. That's pretty tough.
That's mental disintegration, isn't it? You don't need to say anything. It's just Warne and McGrath and a few stares. Well, look, let's just briefly hark back to a happier moment. I've got a little short highlights clip here of your double century against the West Indies. This isn't my edit, actually. I couldn't find a clean version, but as I say, so I'm not saying it's.
Are you on this?
It's not obscene. No, I might be. I don't know. I think there is one voice which sounds a bit like me, but I'm not sure if it's me or someone else. Anyway, let's just watch it for like a minute anyway, and you can just enjoy it. Here you go.
Robert King is off the mark. That's a lovely stroke. That's a good one. Real authority in it. He's top of the first class averages and he's running from strokes to tell us why. Nothing more private as regards the century. It was 5 to 6 on Key were offered the light and they took it. Gorgeous. Hit like a bullet. That's it. What a great shot. First ball under the first question. Fantastic performance in that. That is the end of Robert Key, who's put hard to back the point. And his wonderful innings has come to an end.
Well,
So,
what do you think when you look at that now?
It's sort of surreal, really. I remember having
It was not only surreal watching it was surreal listening to him as well. Your sound is breaking up quite badly. I just
migraine.
do you think
no, sorry, the day before when I got.
start again,
Yeah.
maybe. No,
Yeah, go again.
Yeah, start again. Okay. Is he frozen now?
Yeah, it's weird,
No,
isn't
I'm
it?
here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
We
broke
dropped.
up.
We lost most of you there.
yeah. I suppose one of the questions, that moment when you reached your double hundred, has there been on a cricket field, is that the ultimate moment? I mean, it seems a stupid question in a way to ask, double hundred at Lords in a Test match, but was there another moment in your cricketing career that compared with that, for any particular reason, or was that actually, that was the ultimate moment, that double hundred, never been better on a cricket field for you?
I'd say that was the happiest. The 100 was the happiest because the double 100 is like, that's the icing on the cake. But all you want as a player is 100. You feel like, and this is you'll see it in this day and age. Everyone's always, you're never a player until you've got 100 in Test cricket, and we all think that once they get that 100, that'll be the defining moment, and you go on and on and on, which obviously didn't happen for me. I think that. And probably the thing that I remember the most fondly is Old Trafford 2 tests later, when Freddie and I finished a Test match together, because we'd grown up with each other. And we always said as kids that we wanted to win a Test match for England. So that to me was the moment that and I think him as well, he's got 2005 and a lot more. But they were the moments I cherished the most, probably, walking off with Fred. Because when I remember getting the 90 and I thought, well, I'll get loads more hundreds, and I never did. But I wouldn't trade that really for anything, because that was something that not everyone gets to do, and he was someone that I'd known for a long, long time.
Rob, Alex Gaywood says here, Rob was in the England Test side 2 tests prior to the 2005 Ashes. How close were you to being picked? And do you wonder now how your career would have gone if you'd found your way into that side?
Well, I was in that setup, and Duncan Fletcher came back. We'd been to South Africa, and I'd played. I'd done all right. I played against the West Indies, then got dropped for the first test of the South Africa tour for Mark Butcher, who I'd come in for. He'd got injured. That's why I played against the West Indies. So they went back to Butch. I then didn't play a Test match or a game of cricket so September would have been the last county game. I played the 3rd Test, which was January the 2nd. So I hadn't played a game up until that point. And I got Norton 40 odd at Newlands, 80 odd against South Africa in the next Test, and then got dropped again almost after that. So I remember Fletcher coming back and saying, you're the man, we're going to go with you for Bangladesh. But I reckon, I don't know, that something happened in between where I think they went Kevin Peterson and Ian Bell, which was a fair swap, I'd say. So I was unfortunate. Not like now, lots of people have a go now. But I was basically unlucky at the fact that Kevin Peterson had came on the scene, and Ian Bell was, Ian Bell got 20 Test hundreds, and Kevin Peterson was one of England's best batsmen, probably the best batsman I've ever seen play for England. So I was born at the wrong time, you could say.
Because Ian Bell made that, I think he made 100 against Bangladesh at Chestnut Street.
Yeah, he did.
And that sort of guaranteed his place in the side. And then of course he didn't do that well, did he? You presumably had to watch on from the sidelines as he was constantly struggling in that series. I wonder whether you were thinking, oh, that could be me. I could be getting a few more here.
Well, I tell you what did happen as well. I remember after that Ashes 2005, I'd had a good year. I think I got 1,600 runs. And David Graveney, we played the penultimate game of the year was on Sky, Kent versus Notts. And if you've got good memories, you'll remember that Notts won the championship that day because Dave Fulton set up a game. We, like declare, throw a few lob ups and you can chase down a score. And I remember David Graveney sat with me that day and he said, Keezy, you're in the running to go, you missed out on that great series, but you're in the running to go to Pakistan. And I remember saying, oh, really? It looks like you're going to take Collingwood as the spare batsman. And he said, no, it's not decided yet. I said, okay, well, I'd like to think I've got a good shout. He then went on Sky an hour later and said that they picked the side and the 7 batsman extra one was going to be Paul Collingwood. So I thought, oh, right, that's not the case then. So I missed out again, really. But there was some good, that was probably one of England's greatest eras, I suppose. They got to #1 in the world. And I then was going to get called up, but I had to have an operation. And Alistair Cook got the nod, who became England's best ever run scorer. And then there was a chance between myself and Jonathan Trott, and Jonathan Trott got the nod. And he was, average 50 nearly in Test cricket. So I was a bit, unlucky at times, I think, but I don't begrudge any of it. They were better players than me.
Yeah, so it sounds like you should have been playing in the 1990s. In the 1990s, you've been in, out. I mean, you'd have played, 40 test matches over 10 years, dropped 7 times or something like that, and reselected again, as often happened to players then.
And actually, it was a much tougher time. I think it was tougher to bat then in that 90s as well, in a way. I mean, there was so many really good bowlers, and the pitches weren't great, and England weren't very good as well. I mean, you want to be playing in a good side, don't you? In a way, that's more fun and probably has a spin-off effect on you anyway.
I played a little bit against that Australian team.
Yeah. No, go on. You finish.
No, go on. No, I was going to say I played against Mushtaq, played against a lot of these guys, and they were unbelievable. Wasim Akram, who you would have played against, Waka Yunis. The bowlers around then were, they've not been as good since, I don't think. As good as they are, they were geniuses. Malcolm Marshall.
Well, they were able to do things that perhaps you wouldn't get away with now as well. Anyway, actually, we'll take the questions from the audience in just a sec. I mean, I see there's a Hergist, Horse, and Horse's little brother. That's a good introduction on the chat box. Says, hi, Rob. The Kent Academy, the wicketkeeper batsman seems to be incredible, but not many bowlers coming through. It's quite an interesting observation.
But don't you think we haven't produced a bowler at Kent? Who was the last?
I might be able to get this. I was a Kent. I was a Kent supporter as a kid. I went to Canterbury, Folkes, and Dover. I suppose we're talking Alan Eggleston.
Alan Eggleston, correct. That is our last proper homegrown Kent bowler. Darren Stevens is from Leicester. Matt Coles was, he got capped, was all right. But there is nobody since Alan Eggleston. And Iggy only played a handful of tests, really. We just don't produce bowlers. For some reason, down at Kent, we don't do it. Batters have been okay. We've sort of, since, all right, forget about Cowdrey and people, that era. I played 15 tests. Ed Smith played a few. Garrett Jones played 30 as a keeper batsman. But, so we do okay with batsmen, but bowlers, I don't know what it is. And go to Durham have hundreds,
Yeah, that is a really interesting point. I mean, are the pitches not very conducive to quick bowling or something? I mean, it was never much fun bowling in Kent, to be honest. Canterbury was all right to bowl on, but places like Folkestone, sort of shit heaps, really. No, Maidstone. Actually, Maidstone went through. I remember, but they're not. There's no sort of really good seamer-friendly pitches in Kent, are there? In the middle of the summer. I don't know. It's maybe too dry and hot.
Well,
for
the
quick
Canterbury
bowls or something.
itself. The Canterbury's not a great pitch now for anyone apart from medium dobbs,
Yeah.
really.
Mm.
But no,
That's kind of-
Steve
yeah.
Harmison reckons that it's about the fact we're all too soft down south, and that we've been driven to school too much by our parents as opposed to having to walk the bus, all that type of stuff. I don't know. We just don't.
God.
And listen, Yoz, you've got to go relatively early tonight, haven't you? Because you're doing the Bangladesh New Zealand game later on BT Sport. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to do the
There's
quiz
gonna be people
first.
queuing up to watch that.
We're going to do the quiz first, and then
Yeah.
we're going to do audience questions. So that's how we're going to do it. So we're actually going to do the quiz now.
Yes. Let's do the quiz now then. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit sort of earlier than usual, and you haven't really quite got into the flow, but never mind. You soon will in this case. So the quiz is called How Well Do You Know Yourself?
Right.
It starts with some music. And I'm just going to show you the leaderboard as well, which that isn't. Obviously, that's not it. The leaderboard is this. That's the leaderboard.
Strauss at the top.
Strauss did well, and there's been some good scorers actually. Yeah,
Some good players on there.
good players. We had a good cast list. Ian Smith was the lowest actually, but he's dropped off there now because we couldn't fit him on. You know,
Right.
he's a bit large.
And our worst performer of all time, because this goes back to last year as well. This is the 2021 leaderboard. 2020 was Alistair Cook, who only got 4 right. So that's if you don't want to be the lowest of the low, that's what you've got to be. Anyway, so we've got 10 questions, Yoz,
And you get if you get it right, you get this. No, you don't. You get this.
He's got it!
And if you get it wrong, you get this. Okay.
right, here we go then. Question number 1: Who dismissed you? That's the bowler for 158 in your last first-class innings. It was
Graham Wagg.
He's got it!
Good start.
Graham Wagg
that
for
right?
Glamorgan. Yes, it was for Glamorgan at Cardiff. You made a remarkable 365 runs in your last 3 first-class innings. I was looking
No, that was
through
the
that.
dream game.
Sorry,
Do you know that was the dream game? Do you know why that was a dream game?
no.
Because I got 150 and then didn't have to feel because I went in a hamstring and I just sat and watched Ken win the game in my last ever match. That was the moment I knew I was going to retire from.
Yoz.
Right, very good. Anyway, 1 out of 1. Question 2: How many sixes did you hit in Test cricket?
Jesus.
You got a spread here, Yoz.
It's between 1 and 5.
I would say 3.
Nearly.
Well, you've almost given me if it's between 1 and 5. 4?
Oh no, you got it wrong. Sorry. If you'd went the other way, gone the other way, I'd have given it to you. But
I'm not 3 though. I mean, I feel this is what I do with my kids on a quiz.
2 is the answer anyway. So that's 1 out of 2.
Right. Question 3: How many first-class centuries did you make? So how many first-class centuries did you end up with?
54?
He's got it!
I reckon that was a fake kind of head in your hands, and you've known it all along.
I thought it was 52 or 54. I couldn't remember.
54
2 out of 3.
was the right answer. Yoz?
Question 4: Who was the leading scorer in the match? In the match, who was the leading scorer in the match in your only T20 international?
Oh, Luke Wright.
He's got it!
Very good knowledge. 3 out of 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's a remarkable game for those people wondering why I picked that one out as a question. T20 International, Luke Wright, 71 in an opening stand of 102 in 11.2 overs. Fantastic start, but the result of the game was a 4-wicket defeat to the Netherlands at Lord's in the World T20 of 2009. I mean, it's remarkable, actually, for an England team to put on 100 for the first wicket in inside 12 overs and still lose to the Dutch. But that is what happened.
So your only T20 international was against Holland and you lost. God,
I know.
that's one to wipe
And I
off.
did nothing. I got 10 off 8. That was it.
Anyway, you got the answer right. So 3 out of 4. It's you now, Simon, isn't it?
Question 5. In 21 matches for England, that's tests and white ball, so 15 tests, 5 one-days and 1 T20, how many times did you finish on the winning side? And it's between 6 and 12.
Nine? No, that's rubbish. 9.
Should we give him that?
No, well, I don't think we can give it to him.
Half a point.
I think we can say we can have one more go.
All right, 10.
He's got it!
10 is the right answer.
I feel like I'm a 10-year-old. Come on.
8 in tests and 2 in your 5 one-day internationals. 10 times you finished on the winning side in 21 matches.
Come on, you're doing well at the moment.
That's 4 out of 5. Okay,
Yeah.
yours.
If you get the rest of these right, you'll level with Straussy. Right. Question 6. Ashish Nehra was the first bowler to get you out in Test cricket. Who was the second?
Oh, I do that in Ajit Agarkar.
No,
Don't know.
wrong.
Who was it?
Zahir Khan for 30 at Headingley in August 2002.
Yeah,
Okay, right.
4 out of 6.
4 out of 6. Question number 7. You took 3 first-class wickets. Name 2 of your 3 victims.
I can name all of them. David Willey, first one with a doosra. Peter Trigo and Ben Phillips. 2 Somerset.
He's got it! He's got it!
Very good. Okay, 5 out of 7. Yours.
So you say the doosra, was that just an accidental one that didn't turn then?
No, I felt to left-handers I was better bowling my wrong hand, so I went that way. So I just came over the top and it went up the slope of Canterbury. That's an England player I've got in my pocket. I'm very pleased about that.
Yeah, good victim. All right, so that's 5 out of 7. Question 8. Who did you say are your 2 ultimate dinner party guests in a recent interview?
Oh,
Celebrities.
I change this all the time. Did
Okay.
I say Jesus? I always,
It wasn't that way. It wasn't that interview.
I always wonder if Jesus would.
It was people who were one of the people was alive, and the other one isn't. They were
Frank
sort
Sinatra?
of. So you do change it quite a bit. Well, they were both sort of scientific people, or people to do with stars and the planets and stuff.
Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil who?
You not seen Neil deGrasse Tyson? He's brilliant. He's on the. All I do, I'm like a kid. I just watch YouTube all day in lockdown. He's a physicist. I hated physics at school as well, probably because the way they took.
Well, I'm going to give you the wrong answer. We've given you enough opportunity. Well, I mean, it's probably an unfair question, but anyway, the answer you gave was Brian Cox and Neil Armstrong.
Oh, really? Oh, God.
No, you reject those
I
two
like
now, do
Brian
you?
Cox. I do like Brian. I must have just watched Apollo 11, the documentary. I thought it was a great show, so I probably did that.
Well, I'll give you half a mark for that because perhaps it was a bit of a sort of it was a bit of a half. Well, it was a bit of a sort of random, arbitrary question, I suppose, and you could have given lots of answers. So I'll give you half a mark for that. So that's 6.5 out of 8.
5.5 out of 8.
5.5 out of 8. Sorry, right? Okay, 2 to
Question
go.
number 9. Question number 9. What was your most embarrassing dismissal in Test cricket?
probably, did I get stumped? Nicky Boye was a bad one. What else did I get? Oh, caught off Warren's Ponting's boot. I mean, subjective, is it? I'd say caught.
I'm thinking, well, this is a bit subjective as well. Maybe it's the bowler that is the sort of.
Damien Martin, yeah. God, how do I forget that? God, yeah.
He's got it!
You got it. Tell us the story quickly.
I played Perth, rapid pitch, and I was top score, so I was already happy with that, with 47 or something. And he came on last over before tea, and I just thought, well, I may as well try and slog him out the park. Now I'm going to run. You know what I should do is I should run down and I should hit him for 6, because after tea it'd be McGrath, Lee, Warren. This is my one opportunity. So as he's running in, I'm thinking, go and whack him, go and whack him, go and whack him. And then just as he let go of it, I just thought, oh shit. And I thought, don't get out. And I did like half and got bowled. Sorry for my swearing. And that's pretty much exactly what happened. And I walked in thinking that's going to live with me forever. And it did. And it has done.
And it still is. Well done anyway. 6.5 out of 9. You got that one right eventually. But there's some other quite funny dismissals you had there as well. Right, question 10. Now, if you get this, you'll be sort of mid-table. Okay, so question 10. What do you do deliberately to put people off at golf?
Oh, I sniff. Yeah.
He's got it!
Congratulations, you got that one right. 7.5 out of 10. Sort of muted applause there. 7.5 out of 10. So tell us about sniffing on the golf course.
I have a mate of mine, Terry, a guy called Zach Crawley's dad is one of my best mates, and he's a proper golfer, plays off scratch. And he thinks it's hilarious. He'll sniff when you're on a putt or when you're driving, and it's now gone to ripping our gloves off. Because what we find is that golfers are the biggest frauds in the game. In that golfers, when they hit it into a bunker, their partner or the people they're playing against will be saying like, oh, don't go in the bunker, don't go in the bunker. When all you want is that ball to go into the bunker and preferably plug so they can't hit another shot out of the bunker. Yet they pretend to have this sort of these manners and this etiquette that they don't believe in any way. Whereas me, I don't bother with the etiquette. I just go straight for the abuse, really, and cheering them into, you know, like get in the water, get in the trees, you know, don't look for anyone's ball, put them off whenever you can. And it's just all on for young and old. It's the part I enjoy most about golf, actually.
It sounds like it's a quite good little ruse for a short leg, that as well.
Yes.
Sniffing just as a bowler lets go of it. And go on, can you say what sort of sniff is it? Is it a real sort of like that, or just a little light one?
Just on their backswing, when they get on that bit where they come down, you just like that, or you just make a noise. They reckon that some of the pros used to do it all the time, didn't they? They'd sniff or do something. Oh, sorry. And that's a shot gone, and you've ended up losing.
And the other thing is undoing the Velcro on the glove, is it?
Yeah, you know, when I was batting, so, I mean, you would have been on the other end of it, because the worst thing for an opener is having to go and bat for 5 overs before the close of play. So I used to, with Joe Denley, when he opened, I used to try and always make sure I was at the non-strikers end. And if you were in that great position where you were at the non-strikers end for the last ball of the day, so all you want to do is get through that, and you want to make sure you can come back the next day and bat again. You're on a hiding to nothing. And as the bowler just about to let go of it, I'd just do my Velcro on the gloves, undo them, just like that. And he got out once doing it, Joe, and he was absolutely seething, because the last ball of the day, as I've gone like this, he schnicked it, and he was absolutely livid. But I was all right. I think I got 100 the next day. I was having a good time.
Good story. Good ruse. Good ruse. Well, 7.5 out of 10, not bad. But what's your reflection on that performance? Then need to mug up on the stats, or are you quite proud of the fact that you don't know all your stats by heart?
I feel slightly disappointed that you were so lenient on me with trying to. I mean, there was one point when I think I said it was 8 and the answer was 9 or something. And you went, can you give me that? No, you can't. I mean, seriously, I was 1 away.
Well, you would have been about 4. You'd have been about 4 if we hadn't helped you a bit. So,
We like people to do reasonably well, don't we? Although Cookie really, he did plumb the depths, didn't he?
He was shit.
Right,
He was crap.
it's time for our members' questions. Let's see who we've got first this evening.
We've got Umar.
We've got Umar. Hello, Umar. Welcome.
Hiya.
To
Hi,
the
Umar.
West Cricket Club. Your question to Rob Key, please.
Yeah, first of all, Rob, your lockdown videos have been really fun to watch. The one with Nasser about the 2 teams from the different eras, that was fantastic. I watched that a few times. So good job there. I guess a question that a few of us have is, you made the double ton, and that was almost like it should have been the start of something really more sustained. If you could put your finger on it, what went wrong from that moment on that meant you couldn't fulfill your true potential?
I just think there was so many good players around, as I said. I mean, that you look at the players that came in for me. It was one of those, a bit like the England one-day white ball team now. If you mucked up and you didn't get enough runs, then you were gone. All right, mate. And,
All right.
how you going?
Have you got a ball there? You going to bowl some spin, or is that? Yeah. Oh, what do you bowl?
Leg spin.
Leg spin. Do you?
How's the leggy?
Show us your wrist position when you let go of it. Then. Okay. What about the googly?
I mean, my googlies are like great, so I sort of ball with under spin.
Well, that's all right. Shane Warne never had a googly after about 5 years. He just bowled a straight one, so that's fine. As long as you turn your leggy a bit, that's all you need, eh?
Well, maybe you're never not great at something either. You just need to practice a bit more, and you will be. You'll be fine. But no, and also, I mean, I was one of those cricketers that, because I was always actually quite fit, but no one believes this, but I used to do very well on the fitness tests. But I never looked particularly fit, and I wasn't very athletic. So if I didn't score loads of runs, then someone else was going to. I gave them a reason to not pick me. Now, had I been a great fielder and a great athlete, then I probably would have been given more time. And, so those 2 factors, but the bottom line was there was a lot of very good players around, that was, in that time. And there was everyone that came in, that was a great era of English batting. Everyone was, everyone pretty much came in and did well. You just couldn't give a spot up.
It's a bit like Andy Murray, you were just born at the wrong time, the wrong era.
Exactly. I'll take Andy Murray. That's fine.
Actually, it's a good question. Mike Gatting was similar, as a physique. He didn't look fit, but he bloody was. I mean, I used to try and play squash against him, and he was so fit for playing the sports he loved that even though he was a bit round, actually, he was, fitness wasn't his issue at all.
Yeah, I was similar, probably. All right, Annie.
Hello.
Hello, Rob.
You're all right.
Okay, I've got 2 questions that fit together. Apart from his pure love of the game, what do you think it is about Darren Stevens that has kept him just going on forever?
Well, probably a lack of GCSEs and A levels is one thing I would say. No, you've got to remember with Steve-O, he's only been bowling really for 10 years. And he, Simon would have bowled, I mean, God knows how many overs. He's done that now from 35 to 44 or whatever he is. So, and he does well. So he loves, I mean, and if you can bowl, I think, and you're an all-rounder like he is, so you're in the game all the time. I used to bowl him 20 overs off the reel almost. That's great fun. I'd stand there. I mean, I give fielding a hard time, but I stand there all day. Never even looked like having a bowl. And I was the captain. But for him, he has a rest, and then he comes on to bowl, and he loves it really. And he
seems to get better and better.
He has got. Hey?
He seems to get better and better as well.
He is, and he has got better. And he also has that. Steve-O, he's such a nice lad, but he is so naive, I cannot tell you. Like, he has no idea. He thinks he's 18. He has no idea that he's an adult, really.
He was very nice about you. he said you were a bit of a badger.
Well, I don't know about that, but he has, you know, like, I wish in my career, I was always so aware of my faults. I knew when I always thought worse of mine, but like I was talking about with Simon about commentary and stuff. I always think worse. Everything I do, I think is crap, really. Steve, he just has this sort of blind faith that is such a great trait to have, I think. You know, he doesn't seem to do it.
No, that's good. But the second part of my question is, with the end of coal packs, how important do you think it is to have these old county stalwarts in the side?
I think the most important, I think it's very important. I mean, I was lucky that I had Raoul Dravid, Steve Waugh, these great overseas players that you just do not get anymore. And it is such a shame. They play 2020, but, you know, that's not the true test of cricket. So I think, yeah, you want those, not just old players, you want those players that have been there and done it, and they understand playing against spin. Because it won't be long before the next generation of old batsmen, if you like, won't have played in an era of the great spinners. So they won't know how to captain the great spinners. They won't know how to pass on. You know, I learned from Dravid and Carl Hooper, and, you know, I then tried to pass that on to the Northeast and these guys. I couldn't do it, but the theory and like it's almost like this thing that just gets passed down that you can learn off. And that will go if they're not around those people. So, yeah, I think it is right, as long as they're like Steve-O performing. You know, I do not like where we had this thing of performance-related pay for young players all the time. You know, because like at a county like Kent, we would, you know, they would look and go, well, hang up, we get this youngster on 10 grand or 15 grand is worth, we're even getting bonus money effectively for having them, and the older player, they're costing us a fortune now, and we don't get the performance related pay. So yeah, I think it is important.
I've just done a quick calculation actually. I reckon that Darren Stevens and Yozza have bowled roughly the same number of balls. This is a very rough calculation, the same number of balls in their careers, but of course Yoz, your career didn't last. I mean, Darren Stevens is 44 and you retired at what? 33, yeah. So that actually emphasizes Rob's point. Yeah.
And I worked out that I'd bowled that I'd put 22,000 tons through my left knee in terms of sort of pressure, you know. So it's probably the same for him.
So both of you, that's Yoz and Darren seems to bowl roughly. I mean, I've done a very quick calculation, about 38,000 deliveries at the top level, you know.
Which equates to about 22,000 tons, and he's about probably the same size as me, actually. Well, it might be a bit heavier, actually, so it's probably even more. Probably even more for him.
You'd be much bigger than Steve-O, though.
Oh, I was quicker, but I'm saying about the physique, putting what you still put the same pressure through your knee and shot joints and stuff. I should think, whether you bowl 70 miles an hour or 90, I guess. Probably, I don't know. Yeah, interesting.
Paul's with us. What's your question, Paul? Good evening.
Hi there, Rob. I've been a coach of junior cricket for over 30 years now. I love the coaching pieces you do, and I was particularly interested in the one you did with Nasser a couple of weeks ago about the striking with the hands, and the bit you did with in the summer with Joss and Freddie, showing where he gets his wrists through and Freddie never used to. And it reminded me of a bit I found, if I can just read to you, in a coaching manual. And this is 1976, and it says, power in driving comes from the long swing of the arms, the time transference of weight, and wrist work just before contact with the ball, which is basically what Joss Buttler does.
Yeah.
And this is from the MCC cricket coaching book from 1976. So my question is really, when and why did we stop coaching wrist work in batting and go to the stiff-wristed stuff that Freddie was showing us?
I don't know. I think that I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. But what I found on that piece that we did with Fred and Joss, because those masterclasses, when you get players that can still play, is the key. I think personally, because all of a sudden Joss is hitting it literally the top tier at Trent Bridge, and that's not a small ground. And Freddie's hitting them well, but he's the bottom tier. But I remember it's this bottom hand. I was always taught as a kid to play with just top hand, really. It's probably a bit of wrist break and all of that, but low bat lift. Can't quite. I'll end up demoing it in my room in a minute. But I was taught that, and high front elbow and everything. And Joss, and this is after I've retired, when he did that, that changed the way that I coach, because they use that bottom hand for drives, like for the cover drive. Coley uses that bottom hand. Sam Billings does. I put Coley and Billings in the same, but
it's like a tennis. It's almost like a tennis forehand, isn't it?
It's like, yeah, and it's like golf, baseball. So
or table tennis. I mean, that table tennis sort of topspin shot.
And I think that, it's the only time, because of golf now, all I think about is golf every second of the day. But that is the only time that I've wanted to pick up a bat and explore. And I wish, because I was a hockey player and a squash player, which is such a right-handed dominant sport as a right-hander. And I spent my entire career trying to take my bottom hand out of my game. People say, oh, you're bottom-handed, you're bottom-hand. And we do it on TV, oh, it's too much bottom hand. And I watch them now and I just think, oh my God, what was I doing? That was and I'm so right-hand dominant.
So you were fighting against your natural inclinations almost.
Absolutely. And you're a coach. I find it's my slight concern at times in county cricket at the moment, when I watch all the streams and watch people bat, I think they're so robotic at times.
But do you remember when David Gower was batting though? You must have watched him. That there was so much
wrist break.
Wrist break, yeah. That must have been a lot of bum hand coming in then. And that was none of the stiff-wristed stuff. When did we stop telling people to do that?
Oh, it's like, when did we stop putting the bat on the ground as well? I know
that was actually Graham Gooch started that in sort of early 80s. You know who I could Mohammed Azharuddin. Azhar, it was like bowling at a revolving door, bowling at him, and the wrist. But then it always used to be something that only the Asian players had.
Yeah.
And now we sort of adapted that into our game as well. It's interesting.
He used to hold it. Azharuddin was like,
yeah.
I can't imagine that.
Amazing.
It's
really interesting. How it's changed, and actually we are now. You always felt in the sort of 80s, the Asian players, the Indian players had the sort of wristiness, and now it's almost like the English players are now more wristy than anyone in the world. We do more interesting shots than practically anybody, don't we? It's funny how it's changed. And actually, just quickly on golf, I've got to go, but I've just got a quick question about golf. Do you think you could drive a ball in golf in that way as well? Have you ever experimented whether you could sort of do that topspin style for a drive?
I think they do in golf, actually. I think golf now is that they talk about what the power hitting coaches talk about and what golfers talk about, exactly the same thing. Yeah. Where it's that hip drive comes through. So you remember in cricket, you had to keep your hips parallel. Like this, going up and down. Now they want that in cricket, even for power hitting.
Sort of almost a circular motion.
Yeah, and that and then you put that in with the bottom hand, and all golfers are trying to do is get swing speed up. And that's what cricketers have learned, is that these hands are, they add so much to the game. And how Joss Butler hits it. I know bats are different and all of that, but it is ridiculous. Freddie is a strong bloke. Freddie, Freddie.
Stokes is a strong bloke. Butler hits it much further than him.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. You really must go.
I better go. I just wanted to say two things. Firstly, this is out. those of you who are not subscribers, shame on you. This is the 100th anniversary issue. It's double-sized, so it's 160 pages of glorious black and white print and pictures. Actually, there's one in here. I've got to just show you this. The window, which is Gideon Hayes' regular column about unusual cricket pictures. I'm not going to be able to find it now. He does, a sort of little kind of little soliloquy on, great. Oh bollocks! I can't find the damn thing. Anyway, while I'm trying to find it, just to say, next week it's Chris Wokes. If any of you hadn't spotted that already, and he's going to be, because he's in India. He's going to be early. It's 5:30 p.m. next week for Chris Wokes. So I hope you can look out for that. This is a picture I love. This is the picture of abandoned cricket pitches. There is a guy in Australia who goes round every weekend photographing abandoned cricket pitches in Australia in the bush. And that's one of them. So fascinating. And I just want to say, Keezy, thank you very much for your attendance tonight. In aid of the Cricketers Trust, maybe you might talk about a little bit about mental health after we've gone, because it is such a big subject. And perhaps you could also just give us, when the other guests have had their questions, you could just give us a little thought on the one-day series as well. But Simon will be in charge. So good night, everybody. Thank you very much for attending. And Keezy, a special thank you to you. I'll give you a little round of applause now. Thank you very much.
Good luck, man. Sleep well through the night.
I'll see you on the airwaves at 9:30. Those of you who are getting bored. All right. Cheers.
Try to stay awake, Yols. Goodness me.
I'll try and stay awake.
Right.
I hope I get there in time. That's the first thing.
Well, go.
There's nothing
go.
on the air at 9:30. Then you'll know why. All right.
I don't want you to be late. Go, Yols, now. Good night.
No, Dad. I'll go now, Dad. All right. Bye.
Jacob, hello. What's your question for Rob Key? Can we hear Jacob, or are you on mute? Are you on mute, Jacob? I think you're on mute at the moment.
Yeah, sorry about that.
There we go.
Thanks, Simon. Great listening to you, Rob. Yeah, just a question about all the pundits that you worked with in Sky and wherever else that you worked as well. I mean, who would you say has got the greatest kind of cricket mind? Has got that kind of feel for what's going to happen, what's going on at the moment. Out of all the people that you worked with.
I would say they've all got good minds, but I'd say the best cricket brain is Shane Warne. He sees the game. I mean, Warney is probably one of the biggest cricket badgers. I think Simon called me that, but he loves cricket, and he loves cricket played a certain way. And he has such a great feel for what happens. And when you played against Warney, he was the best captain I played against. Didn't play with him as a captain, but played against him. And he would do things. You'd be standing there batting, and you'd look around and you'd think, what on earth is that man doing there? And he'd have like a catcher here for Mascarenas, who's like a short leg. And you think, what? He's like 70 miles. Why is he there? And then you'd be like, he would just make you think about the game like you never thought about it before. And then you see it in his commentary in that, he will say, oh, he's going to go for a sweep here. Bang, they go for a sweep. He gets it so often, Warney. And he's often, as long as you sort of play it from a positive mindset, he's happy. And he doesn't care if it's Australia or England, to be honest, as long as you're playing it in the way he thinks the game should be played. Nasser's obviously got, an excellent cricket brain. Bumble, because Bumble's, he's a guy who has a bit of fun. But my word, he is a brilliant commentator, I think. I mean, Simon knows more about that than me, but God, I think he for like, and he's a real technical, he's one for technical commentary almost. He's a stickler for the rules, how you've got it. You don't talk through a ball. You put your mic down, all this type of stuff, and he goes mad if people don't, new people come in and they're just like this, and he won't say a word, Bumble. You don't speak until someone's got their mic down. But he's got for spin, he's got a brilliant brain. If I want to find, what do you think of this spinner? I'll ask Bumble. Or, batting, Zach, I do a bit of work with Zach and Crawley, and I'll ask Bumble, what do you think? Because he's been a coach, he's been an umpire, everything. He's got a fantastic cricket brain. and he's got such a recess of knowledge that he can call on. But, you know, but Warney, I think, has out and out. Warney will think of something that you never thought of. Do you know what I mean? He just sees the game very different.
Just a shame that he wasn't cricket captain for a sustained period for Australia.
Yeah, he would have been. He's a gambler, a bit like Owen Morgan. I mean, Warney is he's a punter. You know, he loves taking a chance here and there, and that reflected in his captaincy. Warney kept the field up all the time in one-day cricket for Hampshire. You know, like now they put a man back, and you know, 50. We'll watch tomorrow, and they'll go 4 singles or something, or 5 singles down the ground. Warney would not do that. He'd keep them up. They might hit 1 boundary, but that's how he'd get 5 and over out of them. You know, so yeah, he would have been good. I mean, there've been a few stories probably, but apart from that.
I'm sure there would have been. Yeah, I was actually going to ask Jacob who he enjoyed listening to, but he's disappeared. Who's our next questioner in the cricket club tonight? Who we got then? It's Scott. Good evening to you, Scott. We were talking about Shane Warne. Scott, you know, just remind us,
I went to the cricket academy with Shane back in 1989.
Yeah.
Long time ago now. Yeah. So I coach leg spin over here, and that's what my question's about, Rob. I'm really concerned actually for leg spin in Test cricket. I think it's almost extinct, and it's heading that way. I love the fact that there's a lot of spinners in the T20 game, but I also think that is destroying leg spin bowling in Test cricket. 2 reasons. The technique that these bowlers are having to use in T20 is not sustainable in Test cricket. And also the money and the advantages of playing T20 shorter version. I can't see the talented leg spinners playing that, wanting to play Test cricket. I'm just interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think all spin is in trouble in Test cricket in this country at the moment because they just don't get to play. When I started, I hate going back to myself, but when I started, every county had 3 left arm spinner, might have had a leg spinner or left arm wrist spinner, but they had 3. You know, second team, first team. I think that you'll know more about this than me. I think my daughter's 14, and when I go and watch the kids play, there's loads of leg spinners.
Yeah.
Up until the age of about 15, 16, when they get a bit bigger, and everyone loses patience with them, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, we have a lad down at Kent where my daughter, I was watching him bowl in the nets, and he must have been 12. And and this ball is going, and it's ripping out of the pitch. And that's enough for me. I think I'm standing there and all the parents are there because I'm not a coach, I'm just coach. And I go, who's that lad? And the dad sort of comes up and says, geez, keep him going at that. You know, that lad looks all right. He rips it at 12. You know, the ball's got to be massive for him. And he didn't get picked up in the Kent setup, which I thought, well, you're not picking him for now, you're picking him for the future. Who cares how good he is at 12? We want to make sure he's good at 20. And he might even be 25 by the time he's a good leg spinner. And I just think in England, we produce off spinners and left armers to more of a degree, because it seems that the leg spinners go around the park a bit as a kid. Yeah. And then you lose patience, they don't want to play, and then that's it. You know, I think there's so much more we can do for leg spinners in this country. So you've got so many coming through that one at least is the next big thing. Do you agree or not?
What age do you coach, Scott?
I started 8 and I coach them right up through about 17, 19. I lose them to the counties though. So what happens is I coach them, they go to counties, and then the only time I see them again then is when they get dropped from counties. So
is that fair? Would you say that's a fair reflection of what happens to leg spin, that they get a bit older and people lose?
There's something going wrong between 15 and 19, especially in this country. I'm also concerned internationally as well. There's not many leg spinners playing Test cricket internationally anymore either. But in this country, yeah, there's definitely something going wrong, whether it's the lack of understanding of how leg spin should be taught. It seems to me the fathers of the kids, they come back and talk to me saying, Scott, the county coaches don't want to league runs. They want them bowling tight. They want them bowling quick. They want them bowling at the stumps. Like, I've got kids who can't turn the ball, but they bowl accurately on the length, and they're the ones playing county cricket. And I've got kids that can spin them for fun, who are getting dropped because they're not accurate enough, and they're going for a few runs. So the little left arm orthodox, like, they're gold dust over here. If I've got a left arm orthodox kid, I just said, mate, you've got it made, because you bowl at the stumps, and you'll play county cricket. They love, as you said, they love off spinners, but the leggies, geez, it's a hard life for a leggy, but it's not through lack of talent. I've got 102 hours of coaching over Easter, and most of them are leg spinners. There's plenty of leg spinners out there, and they're just and they're talented. There's a lot of them a lot better than I was at the same age. They're all.
Warney, I always say to Warney that him as a leg. If you watch on YouTube, if you're bored, if you put on YouTube Shane Warne debut, you won't believe how bad he looks.
Yeah, against India, wasn't it? Yeah, he wore the wrong coloured trousers as well. Do you remember?
Yeah, and he looks like, you would watch that and think, if someone didn't tell you it was Shane Warne, you'd think, who's that? Bet he never played again.
Yeah.
And then you obviously see him in that ball soon after, or whenever that was, and it's a different bowler. It takes a while for leg spinners. It's the hardest start in the game.
Yeah, I think he was it his first test or second test. He went for a million, didn't he? In one of the games. I think he had sort of quite similar figures to Mason Crane and Mason Crane's test match in Sydney. Now we got time for one more question. What have we got, Noughts? Who have we got coming into the cricket club now? Is anyone else ready to ask a question? Yes, we got Paul. Hello, Paul.
Good evening, guys. Good evening. Apologies for my dog barking in the background if you can hear that. Thanks for coming on, Rob. Been great to hear you. My question was about I guess a new phenomenon in the game which wouldn't have been around when you were around, which is social media. And obviously the challenge, the extra challenge really that brings to players and commentators alike. So I think we talked earlier about the Netherlands game. It's probably the one good thing for England out of that game. It was before Twitter was invented. Although you got an absolute volley, I'm sure. But talking about Twitter, we've obviously seen in recent weeks the sort of tete-a-tete between Alex Hartley and Rory Burns and kind of the fine line, I guess, that people have to tread now that when they're playing. On the positive side, obviously, it gives the fans great access to players and commentators alike. And my question was more from a commentary perspective, from your perspective, really, as to whether you guys have a code of conduct that you have to follow, or whether it's left to your own discretion. I think, looking from the outside, it seems that you guys at Sky, yourself, Nasser, Ather, tend to pretty much stick to cricket or taking a mickey out of each other at the golf course or whatever. But that's pretty much it. Where there are others who do get a bit more vocal around current affairs. So yeah, it's just a question of whether you have a code of conduct to stick to. And my second question, just before you answer that, was how much of a part you had to play in the Hugh Jardon wind up last year.
I'll start with that one. None, actually. I just saw it coming, because and Simon will know this, when there's not much going on in the cricket, you've got a stint to come up, and Ather's sort of, club cricket today. Well, so that gave us something to talk about, really. And then I could, I'm reading it, a bloke turned up and he was late, he lost his trousers, he then got bowled for none, he dropped 5 catches, and I'm thinking, this is getting beyond a joke, isn't it? And then when it was only funny, well, it was funny, but it was funny because it was Michael Atherton, Cambridge, literally the bloke who sniggers at every wrong thing we say. And he's the first one to mercilessly, whatever it is, nail you for getting things wrong, piss taking. But so when he did it, we all just, this is so funny. On the social media, we don't have a code of conduct at all. Actually, I used to try and use common sense. I personally, and this is just my view, I couldn't think of any reason in the world why someone wants to hear my opinion, an ex-cricketer, on like the pandemic, Brexit, all of this stuff. Who am I to comment on stuff like that? There's people that know far more about that than I do. So I just stay well clear of any of that stuff, because I think that's for people who know about
And
it.
that's a sensible approach, definitely, I think.
Yeah, because you know, the thing I really dislike, but I enjoy social media. I find it a great news source to find out what's going on. I try and follow each side of an argument every single time, whether that's politically or anything like that, so I don't just get swamped with one viewpoint. But if I was a player, I wouldn't be anywhere near it, personally. I mean, unless I'm so good, like maybe Kevin Peterson or Josh Bartlett, who can afford to have someone else to do their own Twitter feed, not that they do, but I would not want to be near it. Joe Denley, who's there's very few people I played with, and you probably, anyone who's, you know, all the people you've worked with or anything, think about this. Joe Denley's one of the few that has absolutely no agenda, doesn't have an agenda towards himself, against anyone, never heard him say a bad word about anyone. He's the most kind person I know. And when he played for England, he just went, I'm off this. Because once he started playing bad and he couldn't, you know, you're seeing the stuff come through, he just said, no, you know, and he went off it for a while, because you just get so much abuse really in that way. So, you know, it's not right, but you've got a decision to make on it, I suppose. But if I was, as a broadcaster, I think you have to be on it, because there's so much, and I quite like it. I find it really good, and Simon might, you know, agree or disagree with this. If you can be thick-skinned and you can ignore all the, you know, Rob Keys, whatever, there might be the odd bit of feedback on there that you could do, that you probably, like, might be like I'm doing now. Keys is rambling on, or how many times is he going to say absolutely, or how many times is this bloke going to go, you know, and I just think, you know what, I need to stop that. And I don't want it's like at the BBC, but sometimes that feedback is quite helpful. Yeah, that's my long rambling answer.
No, it's a really good answer, actually. It's a really interesting one about that. There is some good feedback out there. Also, as well, sometimes you miss something and someone will point it out and you pick it up and you think, wow, that was really perceptive. You know, it might be a little incident. Somebody says, you know, someone watching in the crowd, did you notice that this happened on the boundary or something like that? And then you can develop it. And so you're right. I mean, there are so many pitfalls to it, aren't there? And there are so many problems with it, but it's like life, isn't it? Really, it's all out there, the good and the bad, and it is frustrating when you come up against someone who just wants to take you down for no obvious reason whatsoever. But you know, that's sort of modern life. Thanks everyone for their questions this evening. What we are going to do is we're going to say goodbye to Rob. He's very kindly given us plenty of his time this evening. But just some thoughts perhaps on the white ball cricket out in India and how you've seen things so far. I mean, I think my conclusion from what I've seen so far, and it hasn't really changed anything particularly, is that, goodness me, India got some talented players, and you know, where are they going to go in the next 5-10 years with the sort of talent they've got out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's frightening, isn't it? Really, how much they have, and it's so good to watch. I think that England. I hope, and I think tomorrow, I think David Milan's going to play, and Liam Livingstone's going to play.
Yeah,
I would love to see these next two games. I'd love to see Matt Parkinson play, not because I really want to see a leg spinner or someone come in. I'd like to see if he's any good, because we've all seen him in the Blast, and he looks fine. You know, he looks good, but that is another level. So I would like to see. I'd like to see England do what India did in the T20 series, an experiment, and see, you know, we need to find, you know, we got plenty of options with the bat, no question. It's just about where do you fit the pieces, you know, where does David Milan, where does Ben Stokes, all these things, you know, but is Tom Banton going to come in? You know, whoever, there's loads of options. I can't think of many with the ball. You know, if Wood and Jofra Archer go, who's going to replace one of them? If Adil Rashid goes, who's going to replace him? And that is, you know, in this summer we've got coming up, they're the things that I'd like to try and find out. See, is Reece Topley going to be the one? You know, that's what I'd like to see from tomorrow and the next couple of games.
Yeah, you look at the next 3 world tournaments, 2 of them are in India. I mean, is the rest of the world fighting a losing battle against India because they are so strong, especially in their own conditions?
You know, 2020 is an interesting game, isn't it? Because you can have one person can ruin your day, like Carlos Brathwaite. You know, England had won that game, and then he did that. But I don't think that. I think in 2020 there's a chance. 50 overs, slightly less in Test cricket, man. Because that, to me, the game is about Test cricket. India can dominate that because in their own country, you know, no one's got a spinner to come close to theirs. I mean, they're not that good, their spinners, but no one else has one close. And the longer the game, as you know, as everyone knows, the more it's just how skillful are you? There's no luck involved. It's just skill versus skill. And I think there'll be a handful this year in England. Yeah. With Bumrah and these bowlers they got. I mean, how many times have you seen bowlers like they have now? I haven't in my time. Cool.
Yeah, they've certainly got bags of talent. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really challenging series for England. I mean, my worry, I think, for England this summer a little bit is that India could sort of wreck their Ashes plans. But I mean, that might be looking at a bit, you know, in a sort of pessimistic way. But it could happen, especially that sort of top order. They could sort of really rearrange England's top order. Anyway, we'll see what happens. England generally do well against India at home. India, they have plenty of promise, but they disappoint. Listen, Rob, thanks very much indeed for your time this evening and for your what was it 7? Sorry,
7. I said Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I think you said there, sorry about the Wi-Fi, but I'm not sure if you did, because I think, well, it seems to run out at probably just about the right time that we've got through. Thanks very much, Rob. Rob's on Sky tomorrow for the second one-day international, which starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. So the toss and the team news at 7:30. Looking forward to seeing whether England can produce something tomorrow. Of course, if they lose 3-0, then India will go to number 1 in the world. There's also World Cup Super League points to be competed for, which has sort of gone under the radar a little bit. With you know, you have to finish in the top 8. India have already qualified, but if you don't finish in the top 8, then you have to go through a qualifying competition. And you know, so in a way, it is much more competitive now, because you have to go out there and win matches, a bit like qualifying for the Football World Cup or similar to that. Anyway, so thanks very much to Rob. Rob has gone. You're very welcome, everyone, to continue the evening and chat among yourselves as you normally do. I'm not normally with you at this point. Yours is sort of chatting away at the end, so I'm not quite sure how he finishes.
What's your plans, Simon? For how long are you going to stay? Because I can let everyone in now if you're happy to.
Yeah, I'll stay for another 5 minutes or so, because I've got 1 or 2 things I need to do. I've got to set up my ad hoc studio, because I'm doing the game for the BBC tomorrow. So I've got to set up downstairs my studio ready for tomorrow morning at 7:25.
Are you doing that from your bedroom? So you'll have a TV and a microphone, obviously, like you're doing tonight.
Similar, yeah. I'm actually doing it from my front room rather than my bedroom.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
My wife will probably still be in bed.
You'll be fine. Yeah, I think it'll be, as you say, I think it'll be quite interesting. Obviously with Milan, obviously coming into the squad today. I mean, I think it looked like, and I was saying this to our guys the other day. Look, we were absolutely cruising at 120 odd for naught or something, and then somehow the wheels fell off. I mean, it was just ugh.
It happens in India an enormous amount of time to England. There was a game in Calcutta in 2011 where they were 129 for no wicket, chasing 272, and lost by 95 runs. I think they lost their last 10 wickets for about 40 runs. I mean, India just seem to have, well, they are very talented. They just seem to have the wood over England, and England really struggle in one-day internationals.